Yes.
Question for Joe. Let's assume that one of your borrowers finds himself under pressure with a new regulation, which is going to affect your loan. What would you suggest him to do?
The question was if a borrower has a loan or is looking to refi and they're having a little bit of financial difficulty, what is Joe's recommendation in terms of what to do?
A couple things. One is lenders love communication, right? Let me repeat it. Talk to us. When you have a loan that's potentially stressed or a workout situation, I heard this yesterday, this analogy, we have two situations. Either we're going to be in a boxing ring or we'll be at Woodstock. We'll either be in love with each other or we'll be fighting it out. We prefer to be in love with each other. Call your lender. Have meetings with them. Let them know what's going on. Show them your plans. Be ready to offer them something. Maybe it's a partial guarantee. Maybe it's a sort of a pay down. Maybe it's I'm selling another building and we expect to repay, be able to break this loan shortly. We're putting the building on the market. Be transparent. Call Bob. Don't be afraid to sell, right?
What was that, Joe? I couldn't hear that. What was that?
Call Bob on 17. I see the number, right? And don't be afraid to sell. Sometimes, chopping off a toe, you don't lose your whole leg, etc. But you need to communicate with your lenders. The worst thing we could have, and I have a situation now where a borrower just went radio silent. We can't find him. And, it's just, we have no choice, So comment to us, work with us. If you come in and tell us a compelling story, I don't think there's a bank in this room that wants to own your property, wants to manage your property, etc. We want to work with you.
Yeah, Joe. Now, on the heels of the S&L crisis, I remember very vividly that everybody was in trouble. And in the early 90s, value dropped by 68% in New York City in the multifamily space. And it was the borrowers that talked to their banks regularly that came out the other side of that. And although they may have lost some properties, they still did business with those banks for years and years after that. So that's a great bit of advice.
One other thing, also, if you have an article that's written about you, and it might not have to do with the building that's signature or your bank has a mortgage on, or there's potential issues out there, speak to the bank. Don't just let things continue to slide. Hey, I'm having a problem on this development side. I want you to know your 3 multifamilies are safe, have a meeting, etc.
Yes.
So I have a question regarding the one that's spending up to $15,000 on 160. You're allowed to charge 1/68 of that $15,000. But after, I think, 15 years, it comes off. So the question becomes, you're entitled to increases on what?
Your question, to some extent, is moot, and I'll explain to you why. I mean, what the new rent laws do with the IAIs is that they allow you to expend up to $15,000 every 15 years, but you get like either $83 or $89 as a rent roll bounce for that amount of money. And I don't think if you're a developer in a room, there's a lot of people that are looking at that as any kind of viable mechanism. And then to add insult to injury, they state that after 30 years, I think.
It's a 30 years.
30 years, then it comes off the rent roll together with all attendant rent increases attributable to, that $83 or $89. Again, from a due diligence perspective, and we do a lot of it, it's not a big deal because the increases themselves are not a big deal, and it can be calculated. Hopefully we won't be doing that.
Yeah, the reality is in a decent-sized apartment for $15,000, you can't even abate lead paint, which is a requirement. So is somebody really going to do a partial renovation to get an extra $83 a month? Most owners that I've spoken to, if they have a unit that at fair market would be worth $3,000 or $4,000 and it's renting for $1,200, if that unit becomes vacant, they're nailing the door shut.
It's also very problematic to underwrite.
Yeah, absolutely, because theoretically, think of the record keeping that you'd have to go through, the cost of tracking that $83 increase for 30 years and then backing it out. And is that $83 that should be capitalized at a different cap rate than you capitalize the rest of the income because it's not an increase in perpetuity? There are a lot of headaches associated with that. Your question, can you, if there are free market units in the building, can you opt to take a stabilized unit for your own occupancy rather than one of the free market?
The test for owner occupancy across the board has now been changed to the more akin to the test that was applicable to rent control units. So the fact is that you still can take one unit. However, if they've been in occupancy for more than 15 years, or if that person will turn 62 during the pendency of the litigation, then that, you lose, or you have to go out in the market and get that person a comparable unit, which is really a non-starter for us. So yes, a court looks at if you're going to start an owner occupancy proceeding. I don't know why a lot of people would, given the current environment, but if you're going to do that, they will look at the fact that there are other apartments in the building that were free market that you could have gotten if to house your family, and that may, in effect, have a very negative effect or impact on your ability to get an apartment back out.
Yeah, Tommy, I think you can get the apartment back, but you can only charge yourself the stabilized rent. So I'd like to thank Mitch, Joe, Jeff, and Jay. This is a great panel. Thanks for coming. Thanks for all you.